Hello, my name is Kyle Kashalik. I'm a research coordinator at the National Farm Medicine Center. Today I'll be giving an overview on the background of Safer Farm, its importance, and finally a demonstration on how to use this tool. Imagine if an incident occurred on the farm that resulted in the loss of life, or at the very least an injury that inhibited them from being able to continue to work. My family used to farm and ran their own large dairy operation along with growing a multitude of various crops. That was until the day that my grandfather was fatally injured on the farm, which resulted not only in losing a loved one, but also resulted in losing the entire farm. As we all know, farming takes a tremendous amounts of time and money, but what if a couple of hours of your time can make the difference in preventing another injury or fatality that would result in preventing loss of a loved one and possibly the farm? People who work in agriculture are 8 times more likely to die on the job than the average US worker. And because of an inadequate number of safety consultants that exist to assist farmers in making their operations safer, we need to be able to provide a tool that can bridge this gap. That's why the goal of Safer Farm is to give everyone the ability to make their farm operations safer by making agricultural health and safety knowledge accessible and easy to use. By preventing agricultural injuries and fatalities today, generations of farmers can continue to do what they love, farming. Safer Farm is a free mobile website, a friendly mobile website, which its development that's led by the National Farm Medicine Center and that is designed to ease the farm hazard analysis process. It's a redesign of the Farm Hazard Analysis Tool, or FarmHat, that was originally developed at the Penn State University as a simple method of providing first-hand information about hazards, a process for evaluating hazards, and recommendations on correcting those hazards. Rural fire and EMS from around the country have been trained and are using this tool to help their local agricultural communities reduce hazards. Many emergency responders that have been trained in Safer Farm as part of a 5-part curriculum called the Rural Firefighters Delivering Agricultural Safety and Health, or RF program, has been training and equipping fire and EMS as well as other safety professionals with the knowledge and tools to reduce agriculture injuries and fatalities. For more information on how Safer Farm plays a larger role in this RF program, you can visit www.rf-.org. So Safer Farm is unique in that way that in order to identify hazards successfully, it's really a 3-step process. So when you first identify a hazard, unlike other typical hazard checklists that are out there, they come in more of a safe and unsafe or yes/no format. However, these hazards don't really exist like this. They can have varying degrees and ranges. Safer Farm gives you an extensive list of many possible hazards that can be found on a farm, as well as the ability to describe the level and risk of it. Then when it comes to evaluating the hazard, saferfarm.org and the Farm Hazard Analysis tool offers text descriptions and photos to give you an adequate context on what you should be looking for when evaluating a specific hazard. Finally, when it comes to ranking and correcting those hazards, Safer Farm does allow an individual to show where a specific hazard stands on a scale of 1 being the least protective and 5 being the most protective. This type of ranking gives Safer Farm a more objective way of describing a hazard and its in between possibilities, as well as what corrective actions are needed to reduce the risk of an incident occurring. So these are what as I discussed earlier, are the farm hazard analysis tools, or FarmHat, that was originally designed and developed at Penn State University. And these are basically just printable forms of the virtual Safer Farm website. And Safe Farm, like I said, contains all the same hazards with these, along with their descriptions and rankings. It's just in a virtual format. And these can be handy if you prefer to use printable forms. Um, these can serve as a backup, or especially one of the factors is when in those rural settings, when cell reception is limited, these can be useful to have. So now I'm going to go into a demonstration of how to use the Safer Farm website. So to go there, you would obviously go to saferfarm.org and you would come to a home screen like as you see here. You would give the option of register and to log on. So of course I'm already logged on right now, but as you click on register and you would put in your general information of email, password, username, and then that should get you into here. From here, then you will see you have multiple different tabs in this form. For example, here we'll have the forms library. And again, this is what I just kind of discussed earlier. These are the printable forms that of the PDFs of all the farm hazard analysis tools. And they are organized into different categories between ag buildings, machinery, livestock, all the way up to, to off-road machines, structures, pesticides, and tractors. And it's quite an extensive list that contains a lot of these different things, and they're all again in these different formats. The Help tab it contains the 5 modules I discussed as well before, since Safe Farm is part of the larger RF program. And each of these modules contain the different information that covers part of that. So for more information, again, you can listen to these and learn more about how you can reduce and involve, fire and EMS and as well as involve yourself into reducing those agricultural injuries. And also you can go to the rf-.org to find out more information about that. But the big point of this is going to be that we're going to discuss how to use this tool is the dashboard. And this is basically going to contain all the information that of all the inspections that you've conducted on the farm. So obviously right now I've got a few in here that I've worked on before and trained on. But when you first start out, this is going to be completely empty. So here's all the sites that you would have that if you would start your new site, you could click in, type in your information. So you would have your site name, your address, cities, and stuff like that, and you would click create. And what that would do is it actually would pull up a map of the specific location you would have that you could find, and you could start your basically your general inspection. For this practical surface, I'm going to start with the inspection of that I've already started before. I also want to mention that you can also share your site with other sites as well, which I have not done here, but that is an option as well. So if you were to create a site also, and you want to go back to one, as I'm doing here, you go to inspections and you would go to map, um, and that should pull up now the screen that will show you the bird's eye view of the location that you are currently inspecting. So you can see there's already some that I've already done here previously. Uh, and it's once you can do it in multiple formats. As you can start wherever you want, and really it's up to you what is best to start inspecting. Um, we are going to have also a little handout that you can probably download that will have kind of some of the top inspections, because sometimes it is confusing. Well, where would I start? What do I need to do? What are the important ones that really need to touch on? So there is going to be a form that kind of lists all the important ones and critical hazards that really should target first, and then go from there. Um, so once you kind of get into this location, you can zoom in and out. You can, kind of, it should have, you can move your cursor around and find the, and zoom in on areas. Um, when you first start inspecting hazards, let's say we're starting here, we're in this location here. What you do is you click on this, and this is going to pull up kind of your default kind of menu. So if, for example, if I was pulled off here and it didn't quite show up, because sometimes it happens with the addresses, what can happen is that it will kind of put you off on the side. What you can do is if you want a preferred menu to kind of keep it still, you can actually go into here and then you can set your current map view as default. Save. So what that's done now is move that star over. So now for every time I go back into this map, it'll pop up at this location instead of maybe at a different one that didn't quite show up, because obviously addresses and farms aren't always matching, and things kind of really move around. So that can be really helpful. So let's, for example, say we are going to one of the buildings and we are inspecting a tractor. So let's just say we're in this building here, as that's this small one, and there's an old tractor in there, and we're going to look at how to assess that. So first off, you're going to go to this, and then you're going to click on Add Item. So again, here's all the organization, the list of everything that's there, as you guys said, with the forms library as well, as organizing these categories. So we'll go to tractors. Now, let's say that, obviously the critical one is that, we discussed is a massive hazard and thing to look at is ROPS. So once you click on ROPS, it's going to give you this scale here. And it's going to give you descriptions. So again, 1 is being the worst, 5 is being the best and the most safe, most protective, and 1 is the least protective. So let's say that, I'm looking at this and maybe I'm not familiar with what exactly a ROPS is, or maybe I'm not familiar into what, I know what it is, but I don't really know what I'm looking for exactly. So of course you have all these descriptions you can go off of that can help provide that information for you. You also can go to this photos tab that can provide some of the photos that can kind of give you a reference to what to look at. So once you got an idea, let's just say that, okay, this tractor does not have a ROPS. So that would, matches this picture, no ROPS installed on the tractor, weather cab only. Okay, so we're going to click that one. So now it's going to pull you to this group that says you can either do not group this or you can create a new group. This is helpful in the fact that so if you're inspecting one tractor and let's say you're looking at multiple different things, the hoses, the PTO, decals, lighting, all this different kind of features that are on it to make sure that it's up to safe standards. You don't want to have a multitude of things and not knowing where that goes and having especially when you come back to an inspection and it could be multitude of different tractors that farmers have and which one was it that had this corrective and not. What you can do is you can group that. So let's just say that this was a John Deere tractor that I've already started. It didn't have a ROPS on it. I can click on that. Now, given that ROPS, that's kind of it's a critical major hazard. You can actually click it to make it a high priority. You can also, if you don't want, if it's also been something that's already been mapped, you do not have to map this item either. So this way, it'll just group it to that location, which I could have started here already, for example. Um, If you want, you can also choose a file, like a photo or anything else that you want to upload here that would provide more information if you'd like. Again, you can upload whatever you can take a picture of it to give a more accurate representation of what you're looking at. So you could say, well, here's a tractor with the no ROPS on it as an example to provide that kind of that proof and discussion with if you're needing to provide that information with the farmer or whoever is needing to know. So you can say you can either mark it as you can use custom location. You have a high priority because that's important. So let's just say that let's say for example that this I don't want to group this and that's not already in there. So I would click do not group this item. It's gonna be on its own. It's the only thing maybe I found on the tractor. Everything else looks good, or maybe that's the only thing within the area. I can do is a custom location, knowing where I'm at on the map. I can then click in that location. I can again use say high priority not. I don't have to map it. I can add any comments I want. So, no ROPS, um, and then just kind of leave it at that, or whatever information is going to help you with that detail. And then click save. So now what I've done is just mapped it, and you're going to see that the colors are a little bit different than some of these. Blue means it's not as a critical high priority as other ones. Red is those high priority items like these need to be a corrective action is needed um, immediately if as soon as possible. So that's kind of what those different colors are meaning. So that's kind of the simplistic version of what Safer Farm really does. If again, if you there's so many different categories. We can go in here. You can continue walking around. There's ag buildings, which again you have electrical paneling, fire extinguishers. There's roof. And you can add all these different things. One of the things that I would like to note as well with this is that sometimes you might come up with a one that doesn't have a description or necessarily a photo. That could be like, it provides description at 1, 3, and 5, but it doesn't provide any context for 2 and 4. Now, that doesn't mean that can't be, you can't rate it a 2, you can't rate it a 4. It's just sometimes there's just so much variances that are out there that what you need to do is that we can't have a written context, information available for every little possibility. So what we're doing is we're allowing the in between for you to add that comment, to add that section, and to basically say, okay, well, it's not a 1, and it's definitely not a 3 either. So it's in between. We can still rate that as a 2. And you're going to find that there's some of them within this that kind of has that variances that doesn't really provide that full description that you'll have to make that judgment call. So after let's just say we've done all this mapping and we are good to go. We've completed our inspection. We've talked with the farmer. Um, and maybe he's wanting a now a report. Well, how can I have this? Because sometimes they like to how can we give this to them, or how can, and maybe using myself if this was my farm, how can I use this to keep kind of a record? Okay, what a list of what I need to do and work on, because obviously there with time and money and some of these things does take a bit of that to correct. Where what how can I keep track of this stuff? So what we can do here is actually we can go back to the dashboard. We can then go to our inspections and go to details. So what that's going to do is it's going to put all of my stuff in a list. So here are all my ungrouped items. Here's my, and this would also show my grouped items. So this is a different tractor. So if I would to add different lists of different things, it would start to group them within this John Deere tractor, for example. And it also provides an average score. So obviously, again, score is based on 5 being the most protective and it's a good score. You want a 5, and a 1 being the least protective and obviously not a good score. So it would also give you the average. So this is kind of just a quick rundown of that. Now, to create a printable report, you could set generate report, and then what it will do is put this into a printable format that really lays out everything really nicely. So it gives it the overall score. Now this is the score of overall of everything you found of the farm. So and this can be actually pretty important, especially over time when maybe every year you go back and do another inspection or read a report, and it's always good to see that this score is getting better. Um, and again, it lays out kind of what I've just showed you before. It lays it out into these categories. You can group them such as this. You can also, and it also shows the ungrouped items. These exclamation points again mark the high priority items. Maybe, for example, like the ROPS, there was no ROPS. That's obviously very critical. That needs to be assessed and corrective actions can be taken as soon as possible. And then as you move down the list, it just shows every action item that you went over. So even good, bad, it'll kind of go through and show the score. If it's something that is not a good score, or if it's something that is maybe you've gone back, let's say in 3, 6 months or even a year, and we've reassessed some of these and see, okay, has a ROPS been installed in this tractor? Has this, have the cattle head gates been, fixed or up to code and up to date with things, and we can, resolve them and such like that. So this printable form is really useful in the fact that it can be used for tracking purposes, but also for farmers. There's a possibility too, which we've discussed, is they can use this to give to their insurance companies, showing like I'm making improvements to my farm, I'm making things safer, and that could maybe even reduce their insurance policies and their insurance rates. Um, so it can have a definitely a big difference. So I want to thank you for taking the time to learn more about what Safer Farm can offer and how it can assist in the hazard analysis process. If you have any questions or would like to provide feedback, feel free to reach out to me and I'd be happy to discuss more. Thank you.